Yeah, I think, just being someone in this locker room, you never doubt yourself and what you're capable of, no matter what happens.
From the opening tip, there was no mistaking the energy that filled the arena. The crowd, restless yet eager, had come to witness more than just a basketball game. They'd come to feel the heartbeat of a team that carried their city's pride on its shoulders. From the very first possession, it was clear that philosophy, culture, and joy in the game weren't just words spoken in the locker room by leaders like Alicia Clark and Dave Beamidge. They were living principles etched into every dribble, every cut, and every defensive stance. The Indiana Fever were not stepping onto this court as individuals chasing stats or headlines. No, they were stepping on as a collective, bound together by something deeper: joy, determination, resilience. And as the whistle blew to mark the beginning, that culture immediately revealed itself. Tiffany Mitchell wasted no time making her presence felt. In transition, with the defense barely set, she streaked across the hardwood like a blur. The lane opened for just a fraction of a second, but that's all Mitchell ever needs. She laid it softly against the glass, the first bucket of the game falling true. A roar erupted from the Fever faithful. The kind of roar that doesn't just celebrate a basket, but announces to the opponent, we're here, and we're not backing down. Washington tried to steady themselves. They pushed the ball the other way, testing the Fever's early defense. A missed three clanged off iron, and in the scramble that followed, Sims corralled the rebound with the poise of a floor general. She slid a pocket pass into the hands of Aliyah Boston. Boston, standing tall at the foul line, rose up for the jumper. Smooth, confident, perfect mechanics. The ball dropped through the net with a satisfying swish. It wasn't just 2 points. It was a reminder of Boston's growing dominance, of her ability to impose herself on the game, whether near the rim or away from it. The Fever, though, weren't just about offense. They were about grit, about heart, and about setting tones that would ripple through 40 minutes of play. Injuries had ravaged parts of the roster earlier in the season, sidelining leaders who could not contribute physically. But rather than weaken the Fever, it forged a new kind of leadership, one by example. From the bench, from the huddles, from the voices echoing in practice, the message was the same: play with joy, play with purpose, play together. The first quarter unfolded like a tug-of-war of emotions. The crowd gasped and applauded in bursts as shots rimmed out, as rebounds were clawed for, as bodies dove across the hardwood in desperation. Aerial Powers found herself in the paint, muscling against defenders, using strength and footwork to carve out space. Howard rose high, kissed one off the window, and absorbed the contact for the N1. The whistle shrieked, the crowd swelled again, and Howard's teammates rushed to lift her up. Moments like this weren't just statistics, they were statements. Defensively, the Fever tightened their grip. You could see it in the eyes of their guards. Every possession mattered. Jake Melvin stepped into her assignment against Mitchell, pressing her nearly three-quarter court. She wasn't giving an inch, not a dribble, not a breath of space. But Boston, ever steady, ever reliable, answered the pressure. A baseline jumper, clean, sharp, unfazed, tore through the silence of a tense possession. Buckets like that aren't just points. They are daggers that cut through the opponent's defensive pride. The flow of the game carried on like a storm threatening to break. Citron tried to hold her ground against scorers, slicing into the lane, but the Fever's guards were relentless. A hanging finish off the glass, smooth, defiant, almost acrobatic, drew gasps in the stands. Washington tried to counter with size, with pace, but their shots rattled out. Every miss felt heavier. Every rebound snagged by Indiana felt louder. The Fever knew transition was their lifeblood. Powers pushed with fury, stopping on a dime, rising for a pull-up jumper that seemed destined to rattle out, but instead danced softly off a rim before dropping through. She turned, almost smirking, as the Fever fans rose once again. Runs defined basketball, and the Fever were piecing one together brick by brick. Washington tried to answer. They made a push, sparked by desperation. A 10-1 run suddenly had the Fever backpedaling. Boston missed one baseline attempt, but champions aren't measured by the first miss. They're measured by what comes next. She snatched her own rebound out of the air, powered it back up, and finished through traffic. That's Aliyah Boston, unyielding, unrelenting, unwilling to accept defeat even within a single possession. The pace quickened. Dawn drove through defenders and finished strong. Austin grabbed a rebound, but the moment she looked for the outlet, Powers pounced, regaining possession and sliced into the hoop for another smooth finish. That was her territory, her wheelhouse. The mid-range jumper, the controlled chaos of a drive, the ability to stop and rise as if gravity itself respected her skill. And then there was Hall, working patiently off a screen from Boston. She elevated from mid-range. The shot kissed iron, bounced higher than anyone expected, then dropped like fate had intervened. The crowd roared, not just for the shot, but for the fight, the persistence, the refusal to let momentum slip away. Every play in that quarter told a story of resilience, of culture, of joy turned into fuel. The Fever weren't just playing basketball. They were embodying a philosophy. They were playing for one another, for fans, for the pride stitched across their jerseys. And as the buzzer sounded to mark the end of the opening frame, one thing was clear. This wasn't going to be just another game. This was going to be a battle etched into memory. The second quarter opened with a shift in rhythm, a subtle change in the air that only the most experienced basketball eyes could catch. For the Indiana Fever, this wasn't just another frame in the game. It was a test of their composure, their chemistry, and their ability to keep building on the momentum that had carried them through the first act. The roar of the crowd simmered into anticipation as Sims checked back into the game. Her presence a calming yet aggressive force for a team that thrived on both speed and structure. On the wing, Teddy found himself in rhythm. The pass swung quickly to the corner, the defense sagging just a step too far, and he let it fly. The ball arced through the air like a promise and splashed clean through the net. The Fever bench rose instantly, clapping, shouting, reminding the arena that every possession mattered. That triple wasn't just points, it was punctuation, a declaration that Indiana's shooters could and would punish you if you gave them daylight. But basketball is never a one-sided tale. On the other end, Sonia Citron, the rookie all-star, made her mark. She moved with the poise of a veteran, slipping screens, finding teammates, and forcing defenders to make impossible decisions. Petty, feeding off her energy, came off the curl with confidence, burying another shot. Washington, wounded but relentless, refused to fold. The back and forth tightened. Every shot felt heavier. Every dribble felt like it could tilt the scale. Howard responded the way leaders do, not with panic, but with precision. She darted into the lane, shifted to her right, absorbed contact, and dropped the ball and off the glass. The whistle blew. The crowd rose again. Howard had been here before in the trenches. When games hang by the thinnest of threads, her basket was more than 2 points. It was an anchor. Dave Melvin, reading the floor, saw an opening. A slip cut materialized like lightning. The pass was perfect, the angle sharp, but Hull wasn't ready to surrender the paint. She collapsed on the play, body crashing the floor along with Dolson, disrupting the rhythm just enough to deny an easy finish. These were the kind of plays fans remember, the kind where hustle becomes artistry. Still, Washington found their spark. Petty, with ice in her veins, drained another three. Her shot was clean, her form pure, and with each make, her confidence grew. The Fever still led, but Washington was clawing, scraping, refusing to let the game slip away. 3 minutes left in the half. The scoreboard tight. The arena on edge. Sims took control once more, her dribble live, her eyes scanning. She exploded off the bounce, weaving through traffic with shifty precision, before banking it softly off the glass. The move was slick, almost unfair. It was the kind of finish that silences critics and ignites teammates. But in basketball, momentum is a thief. It never stays loyal to one side. Washington stole the ball, converting it quickly on the other end. A layup that trimmed the gap, that reminded Indiana this game would demand more than talent. It would demand toughness. The clock ticked toward the half. Fever up 41-38. A fragile three-point cushion and nothing more. Yet in those closing moments, heroes emerge. Off the bench, Chase Petty stepped up again. Her shot, her energy, her unrelenting confidence. It was a dagger to the rhythm of the game. Every coach dreams of a bench player like that, Someone who steps onto the hardwood and instantly bends the flow of play. With 8 seconds left on the shot clock, Citron orchestrated. A screen set, a switch forced, the mismatch created. But Washington's defense tightened, forcing a turnover, punishing indecision. These moments were gut checks, reminders that the margin for error in professional basketball is razor thin. Then Mitchell, always a spark, answered. She crossed up a defender, slicing through the lane with a burst of speed that only she possesses. She dropped it in, her basket extending the lead and calming the tension. Her energy was contagious. On the very next possession, she worked off Boston's screen, pulling up for the jumper. It clanged off, but Boston was there. Boston is always there. She fought for the rebound with the ferocity of a warrior, crashing into teammates, refusing to let the possession die. She spun, powered through contact, and unleashed a hook shot that dropped like thunder. The crowd erupted. That was power. That was presence. That was Aliyah Boston. What makes great teams is not just the stars, but the willingness to speak, to lead, to hold one another accountable. And the fever, even in these heated moments, showed that growth. Teammates weren't afraid to give feedback, to demand excellence from one another. It was a small step, but a critical one, a sign of maturity, of evolution, of a franchise forward finding its voice. The half neared its close. Washington scrambled, searching for answers. But then came the dagger. Mitchell again, this time with a takeaway. She read the passing lane like an open book, poked the ball free, and raced down the court with nothing but open hardwood in front of her. She laid it softly in. 2 more points that stretched the lead and ignited the fever faithful one last time before the break. The horn sounded. The fever jogged to the locker room, heads high, hearts pounding. The score was close, but the message was clear. Indiana wasn't just playing for a win. They were playing for respect, for identity, for a season that demanded resilience. This was not the end. This was only halftime. And everyone in the arena knew the storm of the second half was yet to come. In a game where every possession felt like it carried the weight of destiny, the Fever showed once again why they belong in the conversation with the elite. From the very first touch of the ball in this stretch, it was clear the intensity hadn't dropped for even a moment. The crowd leaned forward restless, expectant, and the Fever answered that call with heart, grit, and poise. Boston worked her magic in the paint, finding Turner with a drop-off that split defenders like a knife through silence. Turner collected, finished, and the building shook with approval. It was rhythm. It was timing. It was chemistry. The essence of a team that knows who they are and what they're playing for. But Washington wouldn't fade quietly. They struck back with power and persistence. Aerial powers, steady and sharp. Drill triples from deep, reminding everyone that this fight wasn't over. Each shot landed like a counterpunch, testing the Fever's resilience, questioning their grip on control. And every time Indiana had an answer, Kelsey Mitchell showed her explosiveness, storming past 3 defenders with a lightning step that left the opposition frozen. She drew the foul, she finished the bucket, and she sent a message. You can try to stop me, but you won't. That's the fire she plays with. That's the tone setter she has become for this squad. Boston wasn't just present. She was dominant. Her hook shots fell with that trademark grace, punishing mismatches, commanding double teams, and still finding ways to bend the defense. She wasn't only scoring, she was stabilizing. The kind of presence every contender needs in the heat of battle. And then came Sims. Relentless, electric. She attacked off the dribble, weaving through traffic, laying it up with finesse, holding off Shakira Austin like it was child's play. Every possession she touched became a weapon. Her confidence was contagious, igniting the Fever's tempo, lifting their edge higher and higher. Washington pushed, clawed, and tried to tip momentum, but Howard matched them step for step. He crashed the rim, absorbed contact, finished strong, and then calmly stepped out to bury a 3 from deep. That versatility turned the crowd into a roar, a reminder that Indiana isn't just about one star. It's about layers of firepower. Emily Angsler, Jade